Alright, 4-minute bass lessons, third installment. Continuing on from lesson 2, looking at harmonic tension. Where no note is right or wrong, they just have different amounts of tension. That's all well and good, but how do you learn to hear this stuff? A good starting place is just to play over a C triad. So there's our C chord. Piano players is changing the voicing. So we got da ba ba ba, and I've got my hand upright to sort of get my student to really hear that that's inside. There's no tension in the context of the harmony. Bum 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 bum. If we add something of a side step, boom ba dum ba dum ba, boom ba dum ba dum ba, you should be able to hear there's a bit of tension in there, but we're resolving it. Even on the C, ba ba dum ba dum. On the G, ba da na na ba na 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 na. Okay, so trying to learn to hear no tension, tension, resolution. What you can do is you can actually start approaching each of those chord tones chromatically, and you can approach those chord tones, so C, E, and G, with double chromatics. So boom ba ba boom ba ba boom ba, or from above, boom ba ba boom ba da da ba. So C, D, D sharp, E, A flat, G, C. That's gonna free up your mind or free up your ears to just hear the tension points with minimal things to have to know or think about. Okay, you're just thinking about C, E, and G over a C triad, but you're approaching those 3 zero tension points either chromatically or double chromatically. A valid concern is probably going to be, okay, how do I then not sound like I'm chasing the chords all the time? If you do that on every chord, you'll develop a certain sound because of the way you're thinking. So if I did this over the start of A train, I'm hitting chord tones, so there's a certain sound. And that sound is obviously bebop. It's a very vertical sound. You're hitting chord tones. There's a constant sort of tension and release, this chromatic weaving through the chords. Don't despair. I think this is an important step for anyone to go through. And it's interesting because these days, I think when you're learning to improvise over tonal harmony, we almost travel the history of jazz because you have to master this, which was sort of the sound, the post-Dixie sound, almost, it was swing moving into bebop sound. But then what happens next is you discover that you can actually think of all 7 notes of a full 13th chord as being the chord tones. So for example, instead of thinking of a C triad, you can think of a C major 13. There are 7 notes in that. And those 7 notes collapse into what we'd call a scale. So like if you think of, yeah, it's essentially just C Lydian. So that's what happens. You start thinking more chord scale and less chord tone, which is sort of what happened in the 60s after modal jazz. That's how they started thinking about this stuff. So that sound is less like targety and it's more through. And if you learn to think of every chord that way, you can play more through. But that comes after you master the chord tone approach.